Hey guys, so welcome back to my channel, Simone here. So as you can see, I'm in slightly different filming location today. That's because I'm going to do my white bookshelf tour. So this is my white shelf, as you can see, all the books here. I did my pink and purple bookshelf before, so I shall link that video below for you. So let's get started with what I have on the white shelf. So the first book I have is Sleeping Arrangements by Sophie Kinsella, writing as Madeline Wickham. I love Sophie Kinsella's writing. I think she's really talented. This is about a villa in Spain which is double booked, and so there are two different families going to stay in the same villa, and it's about what happens after that. This isn't a very long book, so I feel like this could take no time at all, and I'm really looking forward to reading it. So yeah. Up next I have A Merry Little Christmas by Debbie Macomber. You'll know if you've been watching my videos for a while that I really enjoy Debbie Macomber's writing. I think her Christmas books are some of my favourite as well, just because they're really interesting and I love them. Up next is Shadows of the Workhouse by Jennifer Worth, and this is the follow-up to Call the Midwife, which is set in the 1950s, and it is about midwives in the 1950s and kind of their roles and their jobs. So yeah, it's a really popular TV show, and like I say, this is the second one in the series. Then I have my first Jane Austen book. There's quite a lot of these on this shelf. These are the These are the Oxford World's Classics books, and they all have the white spine, so like I say, there's quite a few of them on this shelf. This one is Sense and Sensibility, which I don't know too much about. I know a lot of people know obviously all about Jane Austen's books, and I probably should know what this is, but I've only actually read two of them. I've read Pride and Prejudice and I've read Emma, and so I really need to get to her other ones because I really don't know very much about them. And obviously Sense and Sensibility is one of the more famous ones, so hopefully I will read it at some point soon. Next up is The Stranger in My Home by Adele Parks, and this was a book that my mum bought and read and really loved it, so she gave it to me. And this is about a woman who gets a knock on her door one day to hear that someone else took her baby home from the hospital, and the daughter that she thinks is her daughter doesn't belong to her, and it's about that, and I'm really looking forward to reading this. I love kind of thrillers, and that idea is terrifying to me, the idea of having taken the wrong baby home, and the fact that her child is 15 at this point is just heartbreaking, and yeah, I really want to read this one. Up next is The Cake Shop in the Garden by Carol Matthews. I've read a Carol Matthews book before. I think I read The Tea Shop in the Corner, which I think is in the same sort of series as this. Again, I don't know too much about this, but I am looking forward to it. I love this kind of like cozy reads. This really reminds me of like a Debbie Macomber book. It has the same kind of physical aesthetic and also kind of gives me that vibe from the story. So yeah, really looking forward to reading this. Like I said, I loved her previous book. Then we have another Jane Austen book, and this one is Mansfield Park. Again, I don't know too much about this. Looking forward to reading it though. And then the final one on this part is Northanger Abbey, Lady Susan, the Watsons and Sanditon. So there's 4 stories in this, Northanger Abbey being the main one. There's 3 other short stories I believe in this, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading some other, although this has a little smudge on it, but really looking forward to reading some more Jane Austen books that I have not previously read. And then I have Crown of Midnight by Sarah J Maas, which I believe is the second book. Is it the second? Yeah, this is the second book in the Throne of Glass series, which I need to read like ASAP. I've read The Assassin's Blade and really loved that one last year, but that's the prequels, so I really need to get to the actual meat of the story, so hopefully I'll do that soon. Next up I have a book that's kind of on top of here because it doesn't really fit anywhere else, but this is the only graphic novel I own. I have read a graphic novel before. I read V for Vendetta last year and thought it was okay, or was it the beginning of this year? I can't remember. But this one is The Wicked and the Divine, and it's the first volume, the Faust Act. And as far as I know, it follows a group of gods who become mortal for a year. Every 90 years, 12 gods return as young people. They are loved, they are hated. In 2 years, they are all dead. It's happening now, it's happening again. Like I say, I don't know too much about this, but it is a beautiful graphic novel. Like, there are some amazing pictures in this, so yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading this. Like I said, I loved the graphic novel that I read in terms of the fact that it was a graphic novel. It just was the story I wasn't the biggest fan of, so really looking forward to finding one that I hope I really like. Up next is Call the Midwife by Jennifer Worth, which obviously is the first book to the Shadows of the Workhouse that I mentioned earlier. And then we have a book I'm really not sure about. This is The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson, which is the first book of the Mistborn trilogy. I've read what was it called? I read a Brandon Sanderson book last year and I just couldn't get on with it, so I am hoping that I will with this. This is a high fantasy book and I really don't read high fantasy very often, but I'm hoping that I really like this one and that it changes my mind. Then, funnily enough, I have Farewell to the East End by Jennifer Worth, which is the third and final book in that Call the Midwife trilogy. I then have a book that was mentioned by Lauren from Lauren in the Books and Simon from Savage Reads, and this is Life After Life by Kate Atkinson. Now, I don't know too much about this book apart from that it is kind of about a kind of multiple storylines. So I think it's to do with the fact that in one storyline a baby dies when it's born, and then the second storyline the baby doesn't die, and then each sort of time something happens to make the baby, like this person die, there's also like another branch that's where they don't die. I don't know, I might be completely wrong with that, but that's kind of what I think it's about. I've heard really, really good things. I know that I found this in a charity shop and I had to pick it up because, like I said, I'd heard people talk about it and it was amazing from what they heard. So really, really can't wait to read this, and yeah, I really like the cover of this one, just very, very simple. I really like that. Then I have After You by Jojo Moyes, which is the sequel to Me Before You. I read Me Before You last year and really, really liked it, but I've been told kind of quite negative things about this book, so I don't know whether to continue and read it or not. It does annoy me that this book kind of spoils the first book, because I feel like the title After You gives away what happens in the first book. But that could just be me, but yeah, that really annoyed me. But I don't know whether to read this or not. Please let me know if you think I should, because like I said, I've heard very differing opinions on that, and I did like the first one, so I'm not sure. Next up is another Debbie Macomber book, and this one is Susanna's Garden. Again, I know nothing about the specific of this book, but I really like Debbie Macomber, and this cover is amazing. It's probably my favourite Debbie Macomber cover. I just think it's really aesthetically pleasing, so I'm looking forward to reading this one. Then I have this book, which is Southern Lights by Danielle Steele. I've mentioned a lot how much I love Danielle Steele's writing. This one follows a lawyer who has been given the case of her life, which is to defend an accused serial killer, but she gets a load of threatening letters sent to her young daughter, 17-year-old daughter, and then she kind of has to decide what route to take, whether to keep her daughter living at home with her or to send her daughter back to the place she left, where I think her ex-husband left. So it's about that kind of how she deals with that, and again, it's got lawyers in, and I did law at uni and I really, really enjoy the idea of that, so looking forward to reading this one. Then I have Station 11 by Emily St John Mandel. Heard lots of people talking about this one. I've heard that it's nothing like what you think it is. As far as I know, it's about a meteor hitting Earth, and it's about the kind of last moments before that and people having to come to terms with the fact that they're all going to die. Again, I've heard, like I said, that it's completely different to what you think it's going to be, so who knows what I'm going to get when I read this. I then have One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus, and I've talked about this book. I'm not sure how I feel about it. Kate from Girl Reading said when she read this book that there is a big part of this which basically uses mental health as a plot device and as a kind of reason for somebody to do a bad thing, so I'm not sure how I feel about that. I will read it and make my own mind up, but I'm still just not 100% sure that I'm okay with it. This follows, I believe, 5 high school students going into a detention, and then one of them dies while they're in detention, and he is a boy who is about to publish a gossip app where he basically talked about the private life of all the other 4 that have been in detention with him, and it's a case of which one did it. So yeah, this sounds really interesting, but again, I'm not sure how I feel about that plot device thing. Then I have Hidden Figures by Margot Lee Shetterly. I will link the book haul that I did most recently where I talked about this, but and I think I talked about One of Us is Lying in that as well, so yeah, go check that out if you wanted to see it. But this follows the 3 women, the 3 black women who were instrumental in getting the first rocket into space, and it's about their struggles with the racism against them and also sexism, I guess, and it's about kind of what happened. This has come out as a movie recently, so I really want to watch the movie, but I don't want to watch it until I've read the book. Next I have Everything Everything by Nicola Yoon, and this is a book about a girl who is allergic to everything. She has a certain immune problem, I think, where she has to stay indoors, and then this boy moves in next door and they kind of start talking over email, and it's about what she wants to do. She wants to go out but she can't go out, and it's about that, I think. It's about the crazy risks we take for love, and again, this has turned into a movie recently. Really want to watch the movie. Need to read the book before I do that. Then we have Throne of Glass by Sarah J Maas, which, like I said, is the first book to the Crown of Midnight one that I talked about earlier. Again, I really need to read this. I loved the prequels, the novellas, and I really need to get to the actual story. Then I have the final Jane Austen book that I own, and that is Persuasion by Jane Austen. This is the last one I haven't read, should I say, not that I own the other two as well, but this is the smallest, I believe, and I know a lot of people really like this one, so I shall definitely read this and hopefully get back to you on that. And then we have our last little stack over here. So the first one looks really orange, but I promise you it does have a white spine. This is Cell by Stephen King. I bought this in a charity shop. As you may know, I'm reading all of Stephen King's books and going through them, and this is one I happened to find and thought I would pick up. This is my worst nightmare realised. This is about a virus that gets sent through your mobile phone into your ear and turns people into basically zombies, and it terrifies me. And I think the thing about this is it's about a man who's trying to reach his young son before he turns on his phone. So I think Stephen King's amazing, so I can't wait to read his take on this kind of zombie type book. I then have Black Notice by Patricia Cornwell, which is one of the Kay Scarpetta series. I have been reading that. I actually really recently read the second book in the series. I couldn't possibly tell you which number this is. I believe this is the like 9th one in the series or something. I know I'll get to it eventually. I own a lot of her books, and you'll see as I do other bookshelf tours. Again, I don't know specifically what this one is about, but I love the series in general, so cannot wait to read this. I then have 1984 by George Orwell, which is probably the most talked about book that I have on this channel that I haven't even read. I talk about George Orwell's 1984 all the time. I've mentioned it in multiple videos, but I still have not got around to reading it. Need to do that. This follows a totalitarian world, which basically was the kind of start of Big Brother, the TV series, and it talks about Big Brother and how everybody's being watched by this big cameras, and this kind of takes it further than that and shows what Big Brother could create in the future. And again, it's a little bit scary, but also really interesting. And I've just noticed that this here looks like a man and a woman holding each other, and I never realised this little picture here I always thought was just like shading or something, but really it's not. Interesting. Next up I have Hens Reunited by Lucy Diamond. Lucy Diamond wrote an amazing book that I read a few years ago, and I cannot remember for the life of me what it was called. I've read a Lucy Diamond book before and I really loved it, so I'm hoping that this is also one that I really like. This follows 3 women who were at each other's hen nights, but now their marriages have all broken down, and it's a case of what happens now. And again, I'm really interested. I love the little tag for this. It says best mates, hot dates and L plates, and I think that's really funny. And yeah, I really like Lucy Diamond's writing, so looking forward to reading this one. Then, funnily enough, I have another book that's been turned into a film that I need to read the book before I watch the film, and that is Room by Emma Donoghue, which I believe is about, literally all it says on the back is Jack is 5, he lives in a single locked room with his ma, and that is all I know about it. But I've heard amazing things about the film. The book is supposed to be amazing. Emma Donoghue's writing I've heard really good things about, and yeah, really looking forward to this one. Then I have a memoir, which this one is Beautiful by Katie Piper. I think Katie Piper is an absolutely amazing woman. This is obviously Katie Piper. She was attacked by a man who was hired by her boyfriend, I believe, at the time, to and had basically acid thrown in her face, and she has lots of scars and things now, and she's had to have multiple operations to try to salvage her skin and to help her to be able to breathe and things like that. And I think that she is such an inspiring woman. I have like I said, I've watched like a few documentaries on her, and I just think she's really interesting. She's an amazing woman. She's done a lot of things. Like, she's really kind of powerful in herself, I think, and I think she's amazing. She's now got I think she's got 2 little girls. I know she's definitely got 1 little girl. Maybe she's pregnant or she's having another one, I can't remember, but I think she's really inspiring. She's a wonderful woman, and I really want to read her kind of her own perspective of that, because obviously this is from her perspective, this is her own autobiography. Then we have another Christmas book, and that is Last Christmas by Julia Williams. I don't really know too much about this, again, but I do like reading Christmas books. Not even necessarily at Christmas, I just enjoy reading books that are set around Christmas time, so this is one I'm going to reach for soon. And then the final white book I have is Heir of Fire by Sarah J Maas. Again, this is the third book in the Throne of Glass series. This one is actually a signed copy. Let me show you. Here we go, look, isn't it great? I did not get it because it was signed, I didn't even realise. I bought it from a charity shop and then read the front and was quite impressed. So yeah, I read A Court of Thorns and Roses quite recently. In fact, you'll see it in my wrap up next week, but really enjoyed that, so spoiler alert. So yeah, really looking forward to reading this series too. So that is my white bookshelf tour. I hope you really liked this video, guys. Like I said, I have many more to come with all the other shelves that I have, but yeah, this was the white one. And give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you next week. Bye guys!